The smart lock logged 3:04 a.m. I wasn't home. The log looked harmless in the morning light. A clean little line on my phone between a grocery delivery and a firmware update. Front door unlocked 3:04 a.m. The app added a cheerful note, "Welcome home," as if the house were a golden retriever and not a witness. I was not home at 3:04 a.m. I was at the studio, crunching through edits for a campaign that wanted a car to feel like a second chance. The night porter had signed me out at 2:47. I'm a person who keeps receipts. The lock said someone came back without me. Elena's hair was still damp when she walked into the kitchen, the kind of damp that says shower, not rain. She wore my old college sweatshirt and a look I'd come to recognize as an announcement waiting for its words. She kissed my cheek, polite, practiced, the gesture versions make when the room expects it. "You were up late," she said, spooning yogurt like she meant to interrogate it. "So were you," I said and held up the phone like a coin. The screen glowed 3:04. Her eyes flicked to the number and back to my face. She didn't flinch, she never flinched. "I couldn't sleep," she said. "Walked around the block. The city was doing that soft hum thing, you know." I did know, I didn't believe. "You took your keys." "Spare in the planter," she said, casual as weather. There's a particular sound the brain makes when it realizes it's about to redraw the map. Mine did that sound. I nodded as if we were discussing groceries. "Right, plant." She left for yoga the way she always leaves, 2 steps faster than the rest of the apartment. I watched her tie her shoes and wondered when tying had become choreography. I could have asked follow-ups, that's what honest people do. Instead, I opened the lock's activity feed and scrolled. 2 nights prior, a similar line, 3:11 a.m. before that, a run of ordinary hours, dinner times, and Amazon. The app offered a security tip in a bright box. "Consider changing your guest codes every month." I laughed aloud, a single bark, inappropriate for the species. The thing about suspecting someone is that it makes you suspicious of yourself. You start staging tests for a life that hasn't agreed to be examined. That afternoon, I activated the camera over the entryway I had never turned on because trust is quieter without a microphone. It cut the motion into little films. The delivery guy with the spectacular mustache. The neighbor's kid with a skateboard he's too careful to be good with. At 3:05 the next morning, it recorded Elena coming in alone. Hoodie, messy bun, the efficiency of a person who owns the hallway. She looked back at the street once and smiled like a secret she'd almost told. I lay in bed beside the glow and felt both stupid and relieved. There is a flavor of relief that tastes like someone else's breath. At 7:30 she rolled toward me and tucked herself under my arm, a gesture from the long, gentle catalog we used to live by. "Coffee?" she asked. I said yes because I could still say yes without lying. I promised myself I'd stop being dramatic. I lasted until Friday. Friday is when the florist called. "Just checking about the note," the voice said, bright and conspiratorial. "Do you still want thank you for the light, eh?" I was editing and half distracted. "Wrong number," I said automatically. The voice faltered, paper shuffled. "Delivery to the Riverton, Unit 1106, today at 4, anemones and ranunculus. The card on file is Mark." My name, the Riverton, a building that tries to be mysterious by being matte black, was 10 blocks from us. I didn't who placed, "Wait, what's the sender name?" "Just the initial," she said. "A." I imagined 2 versions of this discovery happening to other men in other kitchens, and hated that I could see both. The furious one who storms down there, and the composed one who collects data like stamps. I took a third option. I walked to the Riverton with my hands in my jacket and my heart doing the slowed metronome it does when it thinks it's keeping time for judgment. At 4:16, a delivery guy set a bouquet on the front desk and said a unit number. The concierge, equal parts velvet and suspicion, pointed to a ledge where gifts go before they become consequences. I waited on a couch that made me feel like a better person than I was. When the elevator opened, the man who stepped out was an answer I wasn't ready for. Not a stranger, Jonas. A director I'd hired twice because he could make gray look like elegance. The man Elena had once called dangerously good at being decent. He moved with that quiet competence that makes people trust you even when they shouldn't. He saw the bouquet, saw the card, smiled in a way that wasn't for public consumption, and picked it up. I stood like a bad idea learning to walk. "Nice flowers," I said. Jonas turned, blinked, performed recognition like a man hitting his mark. "Mark, hey, for a client," he said, then looked down at the card with the fatal A like he had forgotten how letters work. "Client?" I asked. "Named." Silence did the heavy lifting. "It's okay," I added and shocked myself by meaning it. "It's not okay, but you don't have to perform." He nodded once, grateful to be allowed a smaller sin. "Come upstairs," he said. "Or don't, but if this is happening, I'd rather talk where there are chairs." I went because I am the kind of man who follows a story even when it wants to bite. The elevator reflected us into infinity. Two versions of decency trying not to make eye contact with what they were about to do. His apartment had that expensive quiet that gets curated by an assistant. A record player sat in the corner like a promise somebody had made him. There was a sweater on the back of a chair that looked like it missed a person. "She's not here," he said, anticipating the first question with relief. "You know this already." "I know my lock says 304, I said. "I know your concierge knows your unit number like a song." He set the bouquet on the counter and took off his watch, a small ritual that always looks like taking off armor. "We can do the speech," he said. "We can do the contrition. Or we can do the thing where two people in the same wreckage stop lying to each other." "Door 3, I said, "the truth version." He walked to the window and leaned his forehead against it, an oddly tender gesture for glass. "It started as an accident," he said. "You know how that sentence ends." "It ends like every origin myth for good mistakes," I said. "You were there, I was. The room was warm, time was a rumor." He smiled into the glass, and it reflected something I didn't hate. "She said you make the quiet feel like a place. I envy that." "She said you make the loud feel like a plan," I said, surprising both of us. We stood in a silence that wasn't hostile. Then he said something I have not decided whether to call generous or cruel. "Do you want to defeat me, or do you want to understand her?" "I want not to be a man who chooses between those," I said. He poured water into 2 glasses as if they were in a bar scene and we'd missed the bartender. "She loves you," he said. "That's not the license plate on what we did. It's just a fact I learned by being where I shouldn't have been." "I love her too," I said. "I just don't know if I love the version of me that fits in the life we built, and I don't know if she does." "She wants both of you," he said, not triumphant, only tired. "The one who stacks coffee mugs and the one who burns things bright. The body is greedy and the heart is an accountant with bad boundaries." We laughed at that and hated ourselves for it. "Are you breaking up with me for her?" I asked, and he flinched because I'd named the position he'd put himself in. "I mean," I added softer, "are you ready to be the villain if I need you to be?" "I'm not ready for anything," he said. "I am trying to be less of a coward than yesterday. It's not a satisfying arc." We talked until it was almost dark. The conversation didn't redeem either of us. It did something less noble and more useful. It made the problem small enough to hold. When I left, he didn't try to shake my hand and I didn't try to punch him. We were two men in a hallway recognizing that the worst thing had already happened somewhere else. I didn't tell Elena that night. We cooked, the way people do when they're trying to occupy their hands so their mouths won't confess. She reached for my wrist while the pasta boiled, and I saw the fine pale groove where her watch had been, an absence shaped like proof. We ate at the island and talked about our neighbors. We did not look up when the smart lock chirped a cheerful update. At midnight, I texted a number I'd been saving for emergencies. Mara, I wrote, it's Mark. We met at Festival Drinks last year. You were wearing boots that made the bartender try too hard. Can I ask you something unprofessional about Jonas? She answered in 30 seconds. Depends. Am I going to regret being helpful? Probably, I wrote, but you'll be hydrated with tea and moral superiority. Go on, she replied. We met the next afternoon in a cafe that thrives on confidentiality, the kind of place where the tables are just far enough apart to make gossip feel polite. Mara was not Jonas's girlfriend. She was the person who keeps the lives of men like Jonas from collapsing under their own convenience. She called herself a producer. I believed her. I don't break NDAs for sport, she said, stirring her tea. But I also don't help people arrange their own drownings. I don't need you to drown him, I said. I need to stop pretending I can't swim. She watched me for a beat, assessing which kind of man I am. You're calmer than the last one, she said finally. Good, calm people listen. What she told me wasn't salacious. It was worse, ordinary, booking patterns, overlapping calls. The way two calendars begin to speak to each other without the owners admitting they share a language. My house 304, the Riverton Thursdays, one Saturday that looked like an accident and was not. Do you want the photos? She asked, pragmatic. I want to earn not needing them, I said. She nodded, approved or relieved. Then I'll forget we had tea, she said, and you'll decide whether you're building a new porch or moving. When I got home, Elena was at the table with a notebook open, our life in bullet points. She looked up and did that small squint that means she's checking which character has walked in. You look like you've had a day, she said. I met Jonas, I said, because withholding was a talent I wanted to retire. She closed the notebook without marking the page. The gesture was gentle and fatal. So you know, she said. I know enough, I said. I don't need the museum tour. She stood slowly, as if gravity had changed and her body had to negotiate it. I didn't mean to turn our house into a set, she said. Neither did I said. But here we are, checking the script supervisor's notes. She was crying in the way brave people cry, quietly, almost off stage. I didn't touch her. Instead, I told her I needed a month away. Not a threat, an architecture. My brother's couch, I said. Therapy. A moratorium on rooms we don't own. After that, we decide whether we're building a new house or selling the blueprint. She nodded like I'd named a thing she was already carrying. I'll pack a bag, she said. I'll text the therapist we liked last year. I'll change the planter code. We both laughed at that, stupidly, then looked at each other with something like awe at how ridiculous and human we were. That night I slept at Liam's place and learned that ceiling fans are excellent at thinking loudly. In the morning, I walked until my watch congratulated me on being alive. Around noon, my phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. This is Lena, it read. Mara's friend. She says you're trying not to make a spectacle of yourself. Respect. Want company for not doing that. I didn't answer right away. I sat on a bench and watched a child learn what pigeons are for. Then I wrote back, "I'd like to practice not lying out loud." Lena was not Jonas's anything. She was, somehow, mine, a stranger who understood the geometry of a life reorganizing itself. We met on a windy corner. She wore an expression I recognized from mirrors, the look of someone who has chosen to be good from now until dinner. We didn't trade war stories. We traded present tense facts. I told her about the lock at 3:04. She told me about waking up at 3:12 every night even when her body wasn't done sleeping. We walked. We raided park benches for honesty. We bought coffee from a cart whose cups fell apart if you didn't drink fast. When she touched my wrist to make a joke about step counts, it wasn't flirty. It was a calibration. That evening in her apartment with the good-bad light, we kissed the kind of kiss that survives daylight, not the showy kind. The kind that feels like a door opening to a room you can furnish later. Hands on shoulders. A mouth learning another mouth's boundaries like a map you're allowed to trace. We kept it on the side of honest. Shirts on, gravity moderate, breath visible. The elegance of stopping when stopping costs something. If you need a heist or an explosion, this isn't that story. It's the one where the smart lock taught me how to knock, where I asked for a month and meant it, where Elena and I sit across from a therapist in a room with ugly chairs and talk about plumbing, boundaries, expectations, pressure, where she texts me photos of the plant we never named and then finally names it herself. Hinge, she writes, so we remember doors can open and close without breaking. Jonas sent a single-line email. "You don't owe me a reply." I didn't reply. Mara sent a check-in with a picture of her boots next to a dog that looked like it kept secrets for a living. I thanked her for the tea I'm not allowed to remember. And Lena, she exists in the honest places. We walk. We buy groceries badly because conversation is cheaper than planning. We kiss like the room is a witness we're proud of. We hold the line between tenderness and spectacle and notice how much can live there. The lock still chirps sometimes because life doesn't pause for the dignity of our arcs. When it does, I look at the time and at my own reflection in the black of my phone. I try to be the man who can say, out loud, "Welcome home," and mean the place where I'm standing.